Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call the Planning and Zoning meeting to order. To have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion.
I guess Mr. Rivers wasn't able to make it.
Right, you got it.
So I'll second. All right, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, same thing for the approval of the minutes, if you want
Motion.
to, okay.
Minutes.
And I'll make the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, we have 2 items of new business and then 1 unfinished item. We'll go ahead and start with the new business. It was brought to our attention that the noise ordinance currently says that the codes department would handle noise complaints, and we as a council have discussed that in our last meeting, and we decided that that's probably not the best line of action. So I talked to the sheriff about it, and he said that they're already going out, and he has no problem with us switching that over to them, but we just, as volatile as some situations get sometimes, I think that's what I would propose that we recommend back to council, that we change that in our ordinance for the sheriff to take care of it.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me.
You're good with that, Mr. Hooton? Yes. He said that they might need some equipment that measures decibels, but it would be very small, a very small amount, and that he would take care of putting a proposal together in the next couple of days and get that back to us. Because you do have to have a measurement, you know,
I've got that too.
you already have it? Okay, I'll let him know.
And the only thing I got to do is just send it off and have it recertified.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Every year.
Okay, that's good to know.
I didn't
Yeah.
even know we had a current noise ordinance in the county.
Yeah.
So hard to enforce it.
It is, and I talked to the sheriff about it before, and he said kind of the same thing. He said, because by the time they ride up on it, it's already, you know, they'll stop. But I've had some constituents who have had some pretty serious issues, and the sheriff's addressed them, and he said, I actually even have a text from her that she sent last week saying that she's had a peaceful month. So he has, but there's still that need to get this corrected so that in the future, if anything comes up.
If I could give y'all an example, before I ever started, we had this piece of equipment and people were complaining about the drag strip. And the decibel level that we measured, or that Andy measured, was louder when a car came by going down the road than the actual noise coming from the drag strip. And they never could get anything over 60 decibels coming from the drag strip. So that's where the noise ordinance, I don't know what the law is, but it's hard to enforce that.
But and you're right, but everybody just deserves to have a peaceful living, and this woman was in her bedroom with the door closed and the door to the house closed, and the water was vibrating on her bedside table. So, you know, he could almost, that's not peaceful living. So surely there's other ways of determining, but the decibel is, I guess, the primary source. So.
Was there a timeline on the noise ordinance, like it, you know, at a certain time?
After 11 o'clock, it's got, the decibels have to come down.
What
But
is that?
from-
Do we have a number for that, like what that decibel is?
It's on page 11 of your
Sir?
packet. It's on page 11 of your packet.
Yeah, from residential 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 60 decibels, and then 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., 50 decibels. And then general
50 decibels
development.
is quiet. That's incredibly quiet. That's almost unobtainable if you speak.
I was going to say, though, the issue is, like Derek's talking about, it provides that you measure it from the property line of the person who's complaining. And you'd be surprised, if you're a mile from the drag strip, yeah, those dragsters are loud, but the decibel reading is incredibly low.
So it's the decibel level, I apologize. The decibel level's not the issue, it's the type of noise.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look in
Not the
the,
intrusion, it's the aggravation.
if you look at the paragraph up above that,
Above
it
it.
gives a list of 10 other things outside of the decibel level that can go into deciding. So
And I think
it's not
that's-
just the decibel level.
Okay, that's what I was trying to say just a second ago, because I think this involved like a chainsaw that, it was at night, you know, they weren't sawing any trees, you know, so that was whether the nature is usual or unusual, or at the time, you know, I think that there are other factors that can play in, but I guess just having that piece of equipment is what,
I live about 2 miles from the drag strip, and I hear it every weekend. But it's kind of like a train to me. You get used to it.
stop hearing it.
So,
And the duration of the noise, you know, if it's all night,
But
or every day.
I had to go meet with them because they were running late. I mean, they'd run 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I told them, I said, at 11 o'clock, y'all got to be finished. And they've done that. So,
That's a fair request, I mean,
huh?
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a fair request. I think number 3 says a lot, though, whether it's usual or unusual.
Good, so if it's okay with you, Todd, and we'll make that recommendation back to council,
Agreed.
that it be moved over to the sheriff's department. All right. Anything else on that? Tim, anything else from you? Okay. The other item of new business is unnamed roads. And Mr. Conklin brought this to my attention, and I've talked to Mr. Eubanks about it, and he can explain a little bit more, but Mr. Conklin was telling us that there was a situation with a family that they had to wait an hour or more for the coroner's office to come because they couldn't find our EMS to come. That it wasn't a problem, the woman was already deceased, but that they had to wait because they couldn't find the house because they didn't have a street name. So I think there's some subdivisions that didn't quite make it that we can improve on, and you can maybe explain that a little bit more.
This is actually what I've got pulled up back here. This is actually the subdivision that Mr. Conklin was talking about.
You see,
If y'all will look, to show you where we're at, this is McBee right here. So just out of McBee on Highway 1, what happened here was years ago, this being a county road here, they put a subdivision in, or started a subdivision off of this county road here. We accepted this, they built this section and this section here to right here, and this section here to right here, to our standards. And we accepted it into the system, and we allowed them to name them, Quail Lane, Murray Lane, Goodson Lane. They were gonna come back later and finish this section here and tie into Highway 1, which never happened. And then, so what they did was actually started selling lots before we had our new ordinance in place down through here. But for us to keep things, we don't have an ordinance that says we can't name, if it's not a county road, we're not gonna name it. We just took that on and run with it and said, we didn't want confusion. With what we felt like would happen if we allowed them to name this and name this, next thing you know, it's got a green sign on it. These are county roads, and it was gonna be confusion. So we just always rule of thumb, if it wasn't in the county system, we would not allow them to name it, and it kinda kept it apart. So all the addresses in here should come off of Highway 1. So say this one, this address here actually should be so-and-so, 418 Highway, 1, and that's what's created the confusion, is once it turns in here, it's been able to do that. Now, with what we're going through, Derek brought a good point up to me, with these subdivisions that we're looking at doing, just redoing the ordinance, guess what? We're not gonna take these roads in the county system, so therefore, they're gonna be possibly a good many roads there, but we feel like they're gonna need to be named. So, we feel that we need to start stepping in. Plus, we faced with some of these, if we can come up with a system and with our GIS map, I think we can say this is colored in on the layer that shows the county roads. I think our county roads are like green or blue and the state roads are a color. We can now show a different color on this to show that it's not a county road, but it's got a name which will allow Derek and them to address it with the new name and give them an address that's a lot easier for or emergency services to find them in there. Another one is just right there, closed. Derek and them's running into a big headache here. This right here is an RV park.
Wow, how many RVs are in that park? My goodness.
There, and there.
So for people who are watching online, approximately how many?
And I had a meeting with Sand Hill Telephone about this particular place. And Sand Hill has been calling us because these people that pull a RV in, they want a landline or they want fiber optic, and they can't get it without an address. So
Look at all these little boxes right here. Those are addresses that codes have given throughout this
but
park here.
we had to address everything off of Hillcrest.
All these addresses in here are named off of Hillcrest
And
Lane.
this is what I'm talking about.
Where is it?
And I'm sorry I don't have a copy for everybody.
Tabernacle Church Road, the last road before you go into Darlington County, you take a left on Tabernacle and then a left up
So
Hillcrest.
that's about 36, 50, about 50, or, yeah. About 50 RVs though, or
Ma'am?
about 50 to 60 RVs?
At least.
Yeah, based on what I just counted.
But we've got, I don't know how many RV parks in this county. And they're all just like this.
Who's paying taxes on this?
Can't tax a RV.
Tax the land.
I agree.
Where do the taxes come in on them,
RV would be like a vehicle,
vehicle tax?
if it's assuming it's registered in
No,
our
but
county.
I'm talking about the property tax. They can't put that off of income based or, I mean, they ought to tax the hell out of them, excuse me, they ought to tax them, I mean, if they're making income off of this property, it ought to be taxed.
I mean, it'd be taxed at the 6% assessment ratio.
There's 3 different lanes in this park right here that would make it a lot simpler for them to give an address and to be able to identify. Because 911 will tell you in a heartbeat, all they can do is send them in there and they have to start looking to see.
They have to hunt it.
That's
And
not-
if it's
that's
a
not
medical
good.
emergency,
Right.
you can't see that. Somebody might be laying on the floor.
Sheriff's office has had some problems in that same place. I think
They sure have.
also, I think they've had some serious.
But if it's a fire, you can see that. You can go to that glow. But for EMS,
So it's also a safety issue, but unless y'all see any reason, because I think we're going to enter into it regardless, that we're going to need to start naming roads that are not county roads. We just need to learn or be able to identify them in a different manner. So they're not getting pushed off back to the county that, you know, this was a county road, and you'll have that. So, but what I don't want to get into is naming private driveways and stuff
Right.
like that. So I think we need to keep it, you know, as something that we feel like is big enough that we feel like would generate a road name.
For emergency purposes, are we required to if we put a name on it, are we required to put a sign on it?
I don't know.
If we did, I was just thinking just outside the box that, wonder if we could do a different color.
Well, see, you know, years ago, we got in this thing when I came here, we had as many, I felt like we maintained as many driveways as I did county roads. So I asked council way back, could I start identifying those as a different sign, which says, look, we might maintain it twice a year for you, because we had right of way or, you know, on those and everything. So if you see a blue sign stuck up there somewhere, I would say, you know, let's continue on in that route as identifying it as a blue sign, and we'll just start picking
road.
that it's not a county road, but
We don't maintain it, we're not gonna maintain it.
the only thing I need to check and see if we, you know, as years go on, I mean, when people learn that, look, if a county maintains it, guess what? It's a public road. They want it public when they want it private when it's,
Advantageous.
yes. So those are kind of weeded out. I'm just curious to see if we still have any out there that we have to maintain. If not, I would recommend that we continue with the blue signs and.
We don't need to maintain anything that we don't need to maintain.
Exactly.
Right, and blue could just be the identifier that we're not maintaining
We're
it,
not maintaining it, but
but it's in the system.
it's in the system.
But for emergency purposes, we do need to identify.
Yeah.
And the thing that concerns me is we've talked with Sand Hill a lot about this. You know, maybe the people don't want to have a landline, and they've got a cell phone. Well, the way 911 pinpoints a cell phone is it triangulates, and then it'll tell you what road name to go to. And one of the first things that Sand Hill talked about was liability on us, because we don't have it addressed correctly. And I need to check on state law. I'm still waiting on a copy of it to see what we are, what we're liable for. Because I can't answer that.
They ought to be able to get that Association of Counties.
Yeah, I feel like I can get that.
That'd be fantastic.
And Derek, I was taking a note, so I'm gonna write a note exactly what I need to ask them. Tell me the question that I need to ask them.
We need a copy of the state law about 911 addressing,
Okay.
because it ties into a lot of different systems. And like Sand Hill, they got GIS. They've got a different kind than we have, but they can pull it up just like we can, and they can see that the road name, the number, everything. This particular one, they had to go in there and walk and measure. And, you know, this one's been real bad.
Are these basically, these RVs, do people live in these things year-round most of the time, or is it just?
There's a lot of people live in RVs in this county and in this state.
But Derek, you were also asking, when I was taking notes, I was writing something like, what is the liability? What liability does it put back on us is what you're also asking, right?
Yeah, that's why I want a copy of that
Right.
state law,
Right.
because then me and Heath will read it and understand it, hopefully.
I'll get it.
Heath, is this something that the road name issue
Yeah,
need to be in this?
It would, we would
Ordinance?
incorporate it into this.
Okay.
And we'll get to that a little later, you know, when we go to our next item. But yeah, that is
Okay.
something that would be included in the subdivision, mobile home, RV park, issues.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, since this is on the table, what legal aspects do we have to address whatever is associated problems with this specific property with it running a business like it is? Or is that something we don't even wanna go into? When we talking these road names?
That's kind of where I was going with, for the business and.
Yeah, I mean, if we already talking about, I don't wanna negatively affect anybody's business or anything like that. It's obviously there. I'm not against it being there, but if there's things that we need to put in place to make it be better for public safety all the way across the board, you know, if we need to recognize the problems and address them.
And in future planning. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just part of future planning as well, because if there are more that go in, we need to be aware of what the problems are.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was, and you know, when Tim was talking, I immediately in my head went back to the blue signs. I remember those days. That was my thought exactly, that we, you know, like for something like that, go ahead and name those roads or name them lanes, whatever, however you want to do it, and put the blue sign, or what, you may need to come up with a different color sign, but come up with a way that they're identified as not being county-maintained roads, but for purposes of 911 emergency response, that they can identify where the road is and then where the address is on that road.
What legal aspects would we have that would force, the property owner into addressing, putting a 911 address, if we establish road names, actually addressing each site with a specific
I mean,
911 address?
yeah, I think the county could pass an ordinance requiring that, you know, as part of the health, safety, basically the police powers of the county. And I would feel pretty comfortable with doing that. And I would think any, you know, business owner like that, from their standpoint, would want to do that to protect themselves from liability also.
I mean, are there actual roads through them? And some of those down near the bottom, you can't hardly see it. There's a road.
Yeah, they
Like,
are.
Here's the entrance here, and it gets you could literally name this section here as one, this section here is one, and then this section here is one. It's like.
You could literally name,
Is that right there?
you could literally
Yes, sir.
name that one a circle and then have a lane down the middle.
Something like that,
Yeah.
yep.
And that particular one, Mr. Butler, you wouldn't consider them roads.
No,
They're paths, trails,
but
that,
this,
that the managers of this particular one, they were at that meeting with Sandhill, and they said, we want to help. We'll put signs up. We'll buy signs. But we have people, there was one incident, I think it's the one you're talking about, a woman was getting abused, and she was running from trailer to trailer to trailer when the sheriff's department got there, and they never could find her. They finally found her, but it's a very serious issue.
and this place has facilities. This place is not only, an RV, it's not only just RVs, but they have a bathhouse and an office and
Laundry, I saw, yeah.
this has those amenities to it.
Oh, okay. I'm just not familiar with this.
There's another one not far from there.
I think there's a place for some of this stuff, but I think there has to be some type of, taking into consideration.
Well, they need to take into consideration the safety and all of the people.
Right.
It sounds like they're willing to, from what Derek is saying, though.
This
Yeah.
particular one is, the one down Tabernacle Church, they don't want addresses.
Well, we'll see.
So if I hear, now going back to the signs, I feel like we've got so few blue signs out there now that people have done away and, given the roads back, or we've given them back to the property owners, that if they still insist that theirs is a county road and want it to be a public road, we could flip those over to green, because it is a county road, and I'm assuming we still have the right to go in there. We can turn those back to green and continue with the blue being a private. 'Cause I don't want to get many, I don't want to look like
We're not begging for them to turn green.
Right, exactly.
But the proposal is going to be for blue signs for all roads not in the system, but are named roads for emergency purposes. Okay. And who will do the naming?
All naming comes back to council, has to approve all naming. So probably if it's in your district, we'd probably be hitting on, give it up to say this one, for example. Derek could get with the owner. He may have names. All we ask is not to duplicate any names, so.
And we would verify that.
Right.
Okay.
Because we can print a report off of GIS, which we do pretty regularly. And we'll make sure that we don't have duplicates, which we've got some duplicates now. But they were there,
Or derogatory.
Right.
yeah.
We have one in Jefferson.
So, if it remains going back to council, that's going to slow progress down tremendously. Because I promised Sandhill that we would meet about this and we'll come up with something and start working on it.
You mean if it goes back to council to come up with the names?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that's necessary.
And
I don't want to come up with names. I mean,
Also might just need to be the tiebreaker. If
We
it's not
can.
something that can be agreed
Right,
upon.
and what could.
Fair enough,
What could
yeah.
happen is, as Derek gets them,
Just approve them,
bring it
yeah.
back to council that, look, we've got these, they would like to name them this, and this, and y'all
Mm-hmm.
vote, y'all good with it to go with. That's actually how we did the subdivisions
Mm-hmm.
and the roads at the same time.
Sounds good. Do we need to make a motion for this, or is this something we can just take, that Todd and I can,
I think this is something that we would be incorporating into what we're doing on our.
and the next
item.
part, so don't worry about that right now. Okay, sounds good. Well, then, let's just move on to unfinished business.
Okay?
You're up, Derek.
I think Heath is.
Oh, Heath is up. Well, you can pass it to Heath.
This is twice now you've done that.
Well, you were standing up, and I just thought I'd give you the opportunity, should you want to share something first. But
And I'm sure he will have some stuff to share as we go through this. What I have done is took what we talked about at our last meeting, and kind of in the order it was addressed at the last meeting, have gone through the county code, and what I have handed to you, rather than handing you the whole stack like we did last time, is I've just handed you the various pages that have been changed since our last time, and what I'll do is, with Derek's help, go through those. One of the first items we talked about was with regard to both subdivision roads and I believe mobile home park roads also. We talked about coming up with some mechanism, if the county was not going to accept those roads, how do we make sure that those roads are built and then maintained? And we batted around some different ideas, homeowner association, plan unit development, but what I, and again, this will be up to the committee and council, but what I decided was, to make it more, up to the developer, the subdivider, let them submit, and what I have put in here is a financially viable planned method of maintaining any and all proposed improvements, including but not limited to roads and stormwater drainage. That way, if the developer wants to get creative and they've got some different way of doing it, subject to it being approved by the county, they can do it. There may be some other way besides a homeowners association, plan unit development, that they can come up with, and as long as that's acceptable to the county, then I think that's better than us trying to come up with an exhaustive list of ways to do that.
Totally agree.
So that's what I've added here on that first page. You see about midway down the page in blue under A2. With regard to subdivisions, that would be part of the preliminary plat submission. Excuse me, that along with the preliminary plat, that they submit that plan, that if there are going to be roads in there, that they submit a planned method for constructing and maintaining those improvements. And again, that's got to be approved by the county and acceptable to the county.
Is there going to be some method of policing that to make sure that they do maintain them?
Yeah, I mean, that would be part of the process. And then if you flip over to the next page, again, as part of the final plat submission, I've repeated that same language, that they submit with that a plan method that's acceptable to the county. And again, that's why I want to leave that language in there, acceptable to the county, because it does need to be some method, be it a homeowners association or something else, that we feel like it's a method that is going to work. It's not going to down the road leave the county holding the bag, so to speak. I think probably in my mind, the best method is a homeowners association or a plan unit development, which in some ways are similar as far as that aspect goes. But again, if there's some other method that the county would deem acceptable, then I don't feel like we need to limit a developer, in doing that. So, and I think we could get into some legal issues if we did that.
If there was a way to implement personal responsibility.
Absolutely, yeah.
It would be, it would resolve a lot of those.
Yeah, and I would probably have to, and your brother would probably have to go find different jobs. There would be nothing for us to do, so. But anyway, so that's what we've come up with there. Again, we thought that was better than just trying to list everything you could think of. And so we've got that. And so what we've done and we're now on the second page of your handout, under B, what we've done, recording final plat, we of course took out that last sentence, which refers to recording of the final plat constitutes dedication of the road to the county, because obviously we would not be doing that anymore. And there are some other, Derek and I talked about this, I didn't want to hand you 50 pages. There are some other places in here that if this is the route we go, that there will be some minor changes that'll need to be made. But again, I didn't want to hand you 50 pages of having one word changed on a page. So what I've done is handed you this.
Heath, if I could, on the first page, under filing fee,
Right,
that changed from 50 to 500.
right, and that's left over from last time.
Okay.
Yeah, we had that in there last time. So that was what we had on subdivisions. And let me see. Then the other item we discussed was under zoning, a couple of things. One was including mobile home parks in what Derek and I refer to as Section 5 of our zoning. That refers back to our original zoning ordinance, but it's really Section 156.072. or I'm sorry, .07,
087.
yeah, probably 071. Which lists various uses such as RV parks, solar projects more than 1 acre, tiny homes and tiny home developments, and manufactured home parks. Adding it to that section, which then requires it to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals before it's approved. And then what I have done on the next page, if you look down, I've added section 156.087, which essentially states that they have got to come before the Zoning Board of Appeals, present to them how this fits in with the comprehensive plan, its impact on the street system, public safety, et cetera, nearby impact on nearby property, and then also that it meets all the requirements that we're going to include in the mobile home park section, which, you know, we talked about that at the last meeting. So, and then the other thing, as I was going through this, I noticed tiny homes and tiny home developments is included in this list. It's actually section 156.086, but somehow that did not get added in when the code was revised to the list. So if you see back on that list, it's added as in, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do it this way rather than using a new ordinance. Because if we do a new ordinance, what then happens is every year, Susie gets all the new ordinances together and she sends those off to the folks that do the code book, and they have to figure out, okay, and they get back with me sometimes, where do we need to put this in the code book? So that's why we're using this code rather than just our old zoning ordinance. So that way, when we get this done, I can send this to them and they will be able to say, okay, we put this right where you've got it. So we've got that. I did have listed on my list of things from the last meeting, the road naming, and we've addressed that even if no more roads are accepted, we need to have a 911 addressing, or 911 addresses in our system. And I think we've addressed how we can do that, and we can incorporate that into the changes that we've made here. One of the other issues was what we called fold-out homes, and I've learned about something that I didn't know about. What I looked up referred to them as folding prefab houses. And the definition that I found was a type of fabricated structure that is designed to be quickly erected and dismantled. And then what I've put in our definitions for both, one is for flood prevention and safety, and then the other is in our zoning ordinance, is that those are to be treated the same as recreational vehicles. And my understanding for that was that because they're supposed to be temporary in nature, that you wanted to treat those the same as we do RVs.
And they'll have to have an RV label or some type of UL-approved label.
I mean, they would, the way we've got them defined in here, it just says they'll be, you know, it'll be treated the same as a recreational vehicle, so.
You can turn that air conditioner down whenever you feel like. So you can turn that air conditioner down when you feel like.
It's starting to feel just about comfortable in here.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I should have worn.
But I have a jacket on.
That wasn't in the form of a motion, I don't think. That was an order.
Yeah. Point of order there.
Thank you, dear.
So I think that was everything. As far as the mobile home parks, you know, the idea would be, if suitable, that we would add the same language regarding the roads. I think that was one of the discussions you had as a committee, that roads in mobile home parks, you know, should be just as safe as they are in subdivisions. And so we would add this same language into our mobile home park, portion of our code. So I think other than addressing the 911 addressing of private roads, and again, some other relatively minor changes that will come about if you and council decide to adopt this. I think that was everything I had on my list from the last meeting. If there's anything I'm overlooking, Derek or members of the committee or other council members, please let me know that, and I'll be glad to try to answer that or go back and look at that.
So new subdivisions, whether it be a manufactured home park or a new subdivision, they're all gonna have blue signs? Or not?
Yes.
Yes, that would be my
Because none
understanding.
of them would be county maintained.
Right.
So we'll use the blue signs for homes named on roads for emergency purposes or for new subdivisions or new manufactured home parks. Okay.
And I will add some language to that effect, where, throughout wherever it needs to be added
Okay.
And the new subdivisions that are coming in, most of those developers do their own signs,
Okay.
and they name, I mean,
I know they named theirs.
like Eagle Crest. They've got the signs already made and up.
And Bridlewood, well, no, Bridlewoods are county maintained, but all of those signs in the back are already up. Okay.
But once again, those signs, the names have to be approved through
Right,
you, is that correct?
and they were.
Okay, okay.
Okay. All right, so anything else that we need? I know that there's a concern brought up regarding subdivisions, and I feel like we need to have Lindsay Privet from PD cog maybe give us some information and recommendations, and she wasn't able to come today because she had the SCEDA conference. So she told me to come up with a time, maybe next week, daytime next week, that we could get back together with that. And I messaged her earlier, but I didn't hear back, if she had a preferred day or time. And it needs to be done before our next council meeting if we can. So I know that's, if y'all will look at your calendars. Or Todd, look at your calendar.
She just called you out, Tom.
Does that mean the rest of us don't matter? It's just Todd.
Everybody matters, everybody
So
matters.
what day could you get here on time, Tom? Hey, you working for a living?
Talk to
You
you
get-
later. Monday? Yeah, we will be here Monday, but we're coming in Monday at 9. But I
And
don't- I
we
don't think
might
y'all
be
wanna do
able
Monday at 8,
to-
do you?
I don't care. But we might, could just FaceTime, or have some way to call Lindsay about it, but
Only problem
she
with
said she's
stacking
happy to
Monday,
come.
We don't have any idea when this will stop.
Famous last words.
Yeah. You say, y'all talking finance meeting?
If you wanna do Wednesday morning, I mean, we should be an hour. So, I mean, this is predictable. for
Yeah,
us.
the rest of the week's gonna be
Do Wednesday, we can
occupied.
do Wednesday.
Oh,
outside of
Kevin's gonna
Monday.
be- I forgot.
Yeah,
I
with-
forgot Kevin Thurman's
Yeah.
gonna be using council chambers Tuesday through Friday, right?
What about the following week?
Yeah, we still have time if we do it the following week. I'm pretty open.
So that would give staff a little extra time.
Yeah, it's
And I
okay.
don't mind trying to get this done, or at least drafted as close to final form as we can, and sending it to Lindsay ahead of time and sending it to everybody else ahead of time. I think that would be the best way for Lindsay to give us some
Well, I think
meaningful input.
it's just a concern that we haven't addressed yet. We haven't talked about, so we
Right.
make sure that we include it.
Sure.
You talking about
And-
meeting that,
The week of the 20th?
If we could.
I won't be here, but I'm not on the committee, so.
Well, you can attend electronically now under our new parliamentary rules.
Is that? We accept that?
Yes.
Okay, somebody asked that. Was
Yeah.
me and you talking about that?
I'm pretty flexible.
Just have to have a majority of the committee here, which would mean, as long as we've got 2 committee members here, anybody else who wanted to attend
What about this?
could attend
What
electronically,
if,
Mr. IT Director.
what if like being married to keep Todd getting so tied up. What if me and Mary go meet with Lindsay?
I was just thinking that, Ethan. I was just thinking that same thing. I don't think we need to even have a committee meeting over that. If we could, I'm on the committee, you understand the need. If the two of us get together,
Because he's not on the committee and not,
right,
that's not
so
a
it wouldn't
forum.
matter.
Correct.
Well, in that way, we could give her some context to the issue.
Exactly.
And then let her give some feedback, and then we'll know
I think
about bringing
that's
it back before the committee.
I think that's a great suggestion. Yeah. It was coming in my brain, but it hadn't gotten there yet. But I was getting there because I was looking, at, you know, I think that that is the more sensible way to approach it. Thank you, Mr.
She
Ford.
was just a little bit late.
I know. Listen, sorry.
Mr. Small was very disappointed that he's not going to have another meeting to come to.
I'm more than happy to be there.
He did give me several different options of times and dates.
Now, I would like to ask, Heath, will, on the 911 addressing part, will that have to go before council and have 3 readings?
Yes, well, but we've already had the first reading by title only on of this ordinance. And I think we can incorporate it into this ordinance. And if we do that, then we've already had 1 reading. We'll have the second reading at our next meeting, meaning we'll be 2/3 of the way there.
Okay.
On top of that, you think we're gonna wind up with a special meeting on finance committee?
I don't get to vote on the finance committee, so.
But it could be solved.
Hoping not.
Planning on no, because see,
Okay, I'm hoping we'll get it in June.
because she told us to go ahead and do the public hearings.
That's correct. I had forgotten that.
Okay. Because I was just thinking, you know, if we did when we had the special meeting.
Yeah, we
then
could.
Yeah, we're trying to get it in, June.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that. Susie did have to go ahead and run not to say if you don't do it, that you couldn't have another public hearing, but she has run the public hearing notice for 3rd reading.
Okay.
But we are one step ahead. We have done title only once.
I just want to make sure we are doing everything that we can as quickly as we can on this 911 addressing.
Sure. So do I.
Maybe having 2 readings wouldn't hold you back from doing preparation work to expedite your side also.
Because it's gonna take some work. I mean, these people's got to get new addresses and everything that.
And there's gonna be a lot of heartache,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm sorry. I don't wanna change my address, because you gotta change your driver's license, you gotta change everything. But we gotta do it.
Well, they want the sheriff's department to get there
Right.
if needed, or an ambulance to get there if needed, so, I think that's also a good suggestion. So, okay. So Ethan, I'll just let you know when I hear back from Lindsay, and I'll get her to give us some times. You're pretty flexible?
As long as honestly,
Okay.
yeah, I'm very
As
flexible.
long as you get your 14 out of
Yeah.
10. Okay. All right, so I'll just get with you. I'll get with you, and then, I mean, I'll keep everybody posted on what we're doing. I'll let you know what Lindsay, but it'll take Lindsay a while to think about, I mean, to look through and get ideas on how to solve the problem, but I think that's a great suggestion. All right, sounds good. Anything else?
I'm aware of.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second. No, any discussion?